Okay, start.
Okay, we're
Okay, good morning. So this is, for those of you who've not been here before, this is the annual meeting. This is in addition to the quarterly meetings that we hold with the finance group. And at this meeting, which should have been held a week ago, was postponed, or 2 weeks ago, we postponed it. And so in it, we'll review the financial performance of the community in 2022, and using those assumptions in building the 2023 budget. I think some of you may be surprised at what you see and others will not. We haven't provided in the past is the legal size spreadsheet. This is the actual 2023 budget with the wages and benefits redacted. So, this is, this does have some of the benefits in it, but not all. But in it, all the wage information has been taken out. Total wages for the community are about $5,100,000. So you add that in at the end, at the bottom, and that would give you the total operating expense for the community. The financial performance for 2022 with ancillary and therapy revenue was $15,335,000 on a budget of $16 million. So we brought in $745,000 less than we had budgeted for. For room and board, non-ancillary, non-therapy. And the reason we take out non-ancillary, non-therapy is their contractual write-offs that are used to calculate the Medicare reimbursement rates. And so they don't directly impact the bottom line, but we remove them there. So for income year-to-date, and year-to-date would be the 12 months ending on 12/31, the skilled nursing center netted $292,000. Assisted or independent living fell $22,000 short of projections, and assisted living $262,000 short of projections. Now that's not only the assisted living in the wing, that's assisted living services as well. So the services that are provided in the apartments and casinos. So for a total miss on room and board of $11,000, pretty close. For expenses, we spent $14,630,000 to operate the community on a budget of $13.9 million. So we spent $649,000 more operating the building than we had budgeted for. Net operating income, so this is after all is said and done, this is what we ended up with. A net operating income of $707,000 on a budget of $2.1 million. So for a total budget miss of $1,400,000. But that we did not lose $1.4 million. We missed budget by $1.4 million. And so in the 2023 budget preparation, the little history from 2019, the end of year census was 157. 2020, the end of year census was 141. You know, everybody remembers what 2019 was about, right? In 2020. So big dip in the census right there at the start of the pandemic. 2021, we basically was flat over 2020 to 2021, ending at 143. And then ending 2022, we, so this December, we ended with a census of 149. For 2023, what we have budgeted is based the budget off of achieving an IL census of 152 and ending at 165. So it's an ambitious year of building census. The 2018, we had 47 independent living sales. 2019, we had 29. 2020, 11. And 2021, 26. And last year, 35. So we expect that trend to continue, but there are factors that are involved that are going to make it challenging. The real estate market, the overall economy, and people's access to the revenue to afford a car lot. In 2022, our expenses were impacted by a minimum wage increase that was supposed to cap at $15 per hour. In the last 2 months of the year, the governor moved the minimum wage to $15.50, so we're starting off the year with a new minimum wage of $15.50 per hour. And in 2022, the significant expenses we had, and these are a large factor in what was used to determine the new budget. Electricity, excuse me. In 2022, we spent $675,000 on electricity, on a budget of $480,000. In 2021, the electricity cost, so you can see what the change was from 2021 to 2022, was $538,000. So a big increase in electric costs. That is, the electric company moved to tier pricing. So they are making up for solar. So solar during the day is eating into the electric company's revenues. And now they're charging more for electricity when the sun goes down. So our energy consumption after 4 p.m. almost doubles from what it is during the daytime. So turn off your lights. Candles. No candles. Water. The water bill increased by $8,000 we spent $8,000 more on water than we had budgeted. In 2021, the water bill was $131,000. Last year, it went to $155,000. So the 2023 budgets are based off of what our actual expenses were in 2022. In natural gas, we saw a jump from $86,000 to $98,000. The reports we get at home, and certainly it's true at my house, is my gas bill, and we use very little, my gas bill tripled from what it is normally. And that's impacting everybody else, all of the staff, everybody else across. It's ridiculous. You get the bill and you go, what happened? And the cable, this is Spectrum cable, television, and Wi-Fi. We budgeted $38,000, but we spent $131,000, and that was a budgeting error. We had a 5-year agreement with Spectrum for a set rate when we switched over 5-6 years ago. And last year it went into play that everybody thought it had 1 more year. So that's what happened there. So this year, we're budgeting out the correct amount. For HVAC, that's heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, if you don't speak maintenance. The repairs that we spent in 2022, I'm getting signals from behind.
We don't see 2021.
What do you have?
What Craig gave us expenses.
Well, where did I get this?
Here you go.
Oh.
Where did I get?
Just a moment, we're having some technical problems. So what did you do? We'll throw that away. That's the one.
Oh, that's the one.
Oh, you brought that this morning. So, where is one? What is that one? Oh, the second sides didn't get copied. You want to take a break for a few minutes? Why not? So if you want to jump to page 3, your page 2 probably. It starts with capital expense and improvements. Okay. So for 2022, we spent $1,100,000 on capital improvements. I know a lot of it was things that didn't show. You didn't see it. Computer and electronics was $25,000. That includes the phone and the life loop systems. I have an update on the phone system. So just hot off the press this morning. We're going to move forward with putting the phone system in for the business phones for here. So you will get access back to, or we will have access to the voicemail, the ability to ring the phone more than 3 times before you get a busy signal, all of those things. The holdup has been the equipment that we need to include the patient rooms in skilled nursing. So we're gonna move forward without including the skilled nursing phones in, because the new phone system is internet based. It's VoIP or VoIP, and the internet in the skilled nursing center is not set up to support it. So there's a different type of system that's going to interface with ours, and that's what the holdup has been. And I said, enough, just get it in. So that should happen in the next couple of weeks. When the phones arrive, they're called plug and play. All we have to do is unhook the phones we have and put the new ones in, and we're good to go. So that's happening. Make ready. We spent $181,000. Make ready is everything to put an apartment together other than the big capital renovations. So when we're turning an apartment that's already had the major renovations, that's what the make ready expenses are. It's carpet, paint, sometimes appliances, things like that. Unit renovations, that's the big overhaul that gets done in an apartment or casita. That was just over $500,000 was spent on preparing units. The replace as fails, that's a catch-all across that anything maintenance related that it goes bad that has a value of 500 or more. It's now 500. It used to be 1,500, and they moved it down to 500 for us. That's not HVAC related. That goes into its own bucket. So if we have to replace a refrigerator in an apartment, that would be replace as fails. Other examples?
Plumbing repairs,
plumbing repairs, different things like that. So, so 122,000 spent on basic repairs. For patient care equipment, replaced the lift equipment in the community to prevent worker comp injuries. So this was a money well spent. One back injury is, $200,000. We spent $25,000 on lift equipment to, assist with that. Life safety and fire, we had to upgrade the fire panels and interface. That was $25,000. And then the big one was heating and ventilation, was $200,000 on air conditioning. So whenever we're replacing an air conditioning system in an apartment, it's about $6,000. When we do it at a casita, it's about $9,000. So, and if you were going to do it at home, in one of your homes, it would have been about $15,000. For 2023, the planned CapEx has been approved, tentatively approved, at $1.2 million. And the items that are included in that are the exterior painting of all the buildings on the property, including the casitas, $290,000. The interior renovations, which are currently being procured, so the flooring and paints, things like that, the design work has already been done. That's $109,000. That includes replacing the flooring in the north lobby, the white floor, the white tile floor, so that it's less slippery. The concierge lobby is getting a facelift, new furniture, some painting, things like that. The auditorium here is getting a little bit of a brightening up, removing the mustard yellow colored trim and baseboards, and the doors, things like that. And then CC's and the green room are getting new carpet. There'll be same carpet in both rooms. And then the green room is being repainted to something other than green. So it'll now be the beige room. And then there will be $50,000 worth of landscaping that is in conjunction with the painting project, because they have to pull landscaping away from the building. So be removing some of the bigger overgrown things that are right up against the building and replacing those. And then $370,000 is budgeted for unit renovations. So we're down to about 13 units now that need the full renovation. So that number's coming down. You see it last year we spent 513. This year we're planning to move more people in, but spending less on the unit renovations because they're moving into units that have already been renovated. And then $60,000 for unit make-readies, where last year we spent $180,000. This year it will be $60,000. And then we will be leasing a sedan. Rather than replacing one of the vans that went away, we're replacing it with a sedan for more economical operation and for short trips and things like that. So instead of taking the whole big van out, we can just take the car out. And then for 2023, the budget considerations that were used to derive the 8% increase, and nobody wanted to do 8%. I want everybody to understand that. That was not our goal. When Craig and I started to build the budget, we were building it at 5% and said, there's no way it will work. And we went to 6 and then 7, and we had to move it to 8. And in comparing it to other communities in the desert here, there are, and we've had a couple people who've moved in because of this. In one of the local communities, they got a 14% increase, and which would be really, really hard to take. Other communities across the country are averaging between 10 and 12%. And that's not to justify the 8%, but I'm just letting you know that it was a hard move for us to go to 8%, but other locations are even going higher. We had the 50-cent increase in the minimum wage again. An average total wage increase across all departments this year will be, this is not everybody's getting a 10% increase, so understand that. This is with wages and benefits and everything else included. It's coming up to about a 10% increase over what we had in 2022. For recruiting expenses, we are budgeting 27% more than we budgeted in 2022. But anything we've learned about 2022 in the labor market is we've got to be out there. We've got to be exploring different avenues and ways to attract staff and retain them, and getting out in front of people and doing that. So a big increase in the recruiting that we're doing. 9% increase in personal property tax. That's not the property tax that we spend over $500,000 on every year. This is personal property tax. And so we get taxed on all of the furnishings and the fixtures and the air conditioning units and things like that every year. So we're getting a 9% increase in that. A 72% increase in insurance premiums. Yeah, huge. And we were not given any basis for why that's increasing so much. Other than last year, we had a lower premium than we had expected. But now they're making up for it. The 45% increase in maintenance and repairs, and that is mostly due to the cost of obtaining supplies and equipment for repairs. The cost of those have gone up exponentially. 11% increase in HVAC expenses. That's just based off of our year-over-year experience ratios. 15% increase in electricity, and we don't believe that that's going to be enough. It's when Craig and I did the calculations, we put in a higher amount, and it was taken down. So we're going to get very judicious about how we're going to do that. 16% increase in what we get charged for waste handling, for hauling away trash and medical waste. 25% increase in water expenses. A 66% increase in housekeeping chemicals and supplies. And so. And if any of you are doing, your own shopping and buying those kinds of things, you're seeing those increases at the store as well. So the 12% increase in paper and plastic supplies, and a 19% increase in dining supplies, and that's non-food. So all of the Chinaware, the to-go bags, all those kinds of things, we're seeing an increase there as well. 5% increase in food. And if you were shopping at a grocery store, you're seeing a much higher percentage of that. But this is including, we're able to leverage bulk pricing and rebates. And so we're buying on a much larger scale than what you're buying in grocery stores, things like that. But our actual food costs are higher, much, much higher than they were. And a 13% increase in nursing care supplies, a 100% increase in lab and x-ray fees. An 18% increase in incontinence supplies, a 78% increase in digital media production. And so this is our electronic online presence, but we're offsetting it with a 70% decrease in print media. You're already seeing that with the newspapers. The circulation is down. People aren't getting the newspapers as much anymore. I think we don't even get Saturday delivery any longer. You don't get Saturday papers. And so that is going to continue to switch. The balance will switch. And print media is going away, as you all know, and then it'll be it's all online from now on. The total wage expense for the 2023 budget is $5,578,000, and that's without the benefits. Okay, that doesn't include benefits. If we want to jump back to your new handout, page 2, we can continue with the significant expenses from 2022. So in 2022, for HVAC, we spent $192,000 on a budget of $120,000. Okay, and in 2021, HVAC expenses were $120,000. So a $70,000 jump in expenses for maintaining the HVAC systems. And I don't think we did that much more in 2022 than we did in 2021. It's just more expensive to do it. And for unit make-readies, the turn costs were $233,000 versus a budget of $120,000. In 2021, $144,000. And there again, it's what we're paying for the raw materials, the cabinetry, the countertops, the carpeting, and in some cases have doubled over what we were spending. Plumbing, we spent $67,000 in plumbing repairs, and on a budget of $27,000. 2021, we spent $26,000. So the budget in 2021 was based off of actual expenses, or 2022 was based off actual expenses, but we incurred, a little over $20,000 more than what we had planned. For emergency prep, this was all along what we were spending on COVID, for COVID supplies, for everything to keep us safe, throughout the last 3 years. We had a special account set up that was called emergency preparation. We called it 5250, not 5150, Ellen. Ellen knows what a 5150 is. But this was a 5250 account where all the money that we used, that we incurred because of COVID, went into that account, so it was kept up. Last year, we spent $146,000 in it versus a budget of $120,000, and this year we've done away with it. So we're not using that anymore. So whatever expenses we incur in related to COVID are just now operating expenses. And transportation, we had a couple expensive repairs on the transit van and the bus. The lift broke and things like that. Spent about $9,000 on repairs. And for fuel, we spent about $3,000 more than what we had budgeted for. And you all have seen what gasoline prices have done, up and down, up and down, up and down. Food service overtime, we spent $147,000 on overtime in the food service department. And you've seen, throughout 2022, everything that was done to be able to continue providing food service with the labor problems, the labor shortage. Food, we spent $615,000 on food and a budget of $516,000. And that was all directly related to the rising cost of food. And then for nursing agency staffing, We spent $956,000. I know, wow, on agency staffing. And this again was due to the labor challenges of the labor market. We had budgeted $30,000. Yeah. The nursing wages, so that to give you an idea about what that cost us to do, the nursing wages, we spent $2,700,000 and the budgeted amount was $3 million. So we were about $319,000 in regular labor hours, better than budget. But when you factor in the agency, we were $900,000 over that. So the using the agency cost us about $600,000 more than if we had been able to staff it with our own staff. And so we have eliminated all agency use in the assisted living wing. So there's no more, there's Helen. There's no more agency use in assisted living. We are seeing the labor market loosen up a bit, and we're able to bring staff in. The challenge that we're having now, and all communities are having, is, or most, not all, but is keeping the staff. The staff now, you know, if they can come here and if they can go next door and get a job tomorrow. It's just, you know, that's what's happening. So we're looking at ways of retention, a lot of different things for staff retention and recruitment and retention coming up. For the skilled nursing center is still dependent on registered nursing. They've been able to fill CNA positions and licensed nurse positions, but registered nurses are still a challenge. In April, you all received the notice that in April, the management of the skilled nursing center is being transferred to Aspen Healthcare. Aspen is a good operator. They've been around for a while. This will be their first Southern California property. And the budget numbers and the budgets will change in April, but we are not able to share those at this time. The property taxes, we spent $572,000 on property tax. 8.9 million is land, 47 is structures. The insurances, $628,000 versus a budget of $0 from last year. We did budget insurance last year, I assure you. And somehow between the time the budgets were approved and the budgets came back to us, it fell out and it couldn't be put back in. So that was something we just had to absorb. The work comp insurance, $178,000 on workers' comp insurance. That has come down year over year because of our experience ratio. And trash removal, it was went up about $2,000 over what we anticipated, and that was increased fees from primarily the infectious waste handler because of having to, everything from our isolation zones had to be specially handled and moved out. So that was what impacted that. For media production, we're budgeting, or we spent about $149,000. We have Legionella treatment. This is not the most recent one. This is the one from 2022 or 2021 it was. 22? Seems like it was longer than that. That was about $32,000 to do that. And then the wage impact for 2022 salary increases is $218,000. The historical rate increases, we won't read all through them, you see them. Last year it was a 5%, this year it's gone to 8%. For bad debt, and that is our ability to collect the revenue that we bring in. It's less than 1%. And so Craig back there is working his way closer and closer to the exits. Craig has done a remarkable job in collecting revenue that is owed to us from Medi-Cal, Medicaid, from the insurance companies. He does a fantastic job with that. And has trained Francis, worked with, I wouldn't say he's trained Francis because she did a lot of training of him. But Francis will be taking over that in the interim between now and April when Aspen takes over. And we are owed from last year, what is it, about $220,000 now? We're still owed $220,000 from 2022 from Medi-Cal. That was in a rate dispute with them that we prevailed in. They had miscalculated about $1 million in expenses that we were able to resubmit. And so the daily rate has increased, but they haven't updated their systems. And so month over month, we keep getting shortchanged. And so when that finally happens, they will collect that. It'll be up to over $250,000 at that point. We're now on page 4. We went through page 4. Does anybody need me to go back and redo that? Or that was page 3 actually that we redid. And then page 4 is the overall budget summary for 2023. The net revenue that is budgeted for 2023 is $18,800,000 compared to the budget for in 2022 of $16 million. The net operating expenses that we're budgeting are total $16 million compared to $14 million from 2022. The net operating income for 2023 is $2,879,000 with planned capital expenses of $1,300,000. So the satisfaction survey, the U.S. News and World Report satisfaction surveys are in for Watermark as an entire corporation, entire company, and they are overall very good. The individual results for Carlotta were not available to me at this point. So as soon as I get those, we'll be discussing those and doing some breakout sessions on what those results are and what we can do with that. For programming, just very succinct, we're returning to pre-pandemic programming. So the staff and associates and residents are not required to have their temperature taken anymore when they come in. We are looking for validation or verification from the state about the continued use of masks and also whether the staff need to continue using AccuShield. The goal is that AccuShield would only be used for visitors and vendors to the community. And that is for twofold. One is to protect the health of the residents and the community, and the other is safety. That when you see somebody you don't know or you don't recognize, they should be wearing a badge. And that we know that they're here and what they're here for. It prints out who they're here to see. And if you see somebody who's not, then it's okay to question them about who they are and why they're here.
Right.
And then the 2022 tax donation letters that you get each year, that's the letter you will get that you use to file your taxes that shows the percentage of what you paid that's related to healthcare. That always is received in the mid to late February. So as soon as we get them right out to you the same day. So I know a lot of people have been calling and asking for that. So as soon as we get them, you will get it that very same day. that concludes the presentation. You want a microphone? Vanessa will cover out the microphone.
I was just noticing on the projects like exterior painting, I thought originally we had the resurfacing road too.
Yes, so did I. It is not in the approved budget for this year. I am still appealing Welltower to have it done. And Molly and I are on a call with Welltower once or every other week to discuss capital expenses and unit sales and renovation costs, things like that. And I bring it up every other time.
He does.
And so I'm in that process of still trying to convince them that it's not only an aesthetic issue, it's a safety issue.
I understood that we weren't taking Medi-Cal any longer in the Carlotta, like for years. Is that correct?
That is not correct.
Because, yeah, you mentioned Medi-Cal reimbursement, because we always took Medi-Cal when we were Good Samaritan. But then after, I don't know, somewhere within Fountains, I had heard that they wouldn't take Medi. So if we run out of money, we can get Medi-Cal and live in assisted or skilled?
Well, no, there isn't, we don't have Medi-Cal for independent or assisted living.
Oh, who is it? I mean, how?
It's only in skilled nursing.
Okay, just skilled,
Mhm.
but we could, if we ran out of money, because we spent too much now, and then we could go to skilled if we could find a disease, and we could.
I don't have the answer for that. You know, as we're moving away from operating the skilled building, it's going to change.
And they might not accept it, so, yeah.
With the new ownership of the skilled nursing, where does that leave us from our general residency contract? When we moved in here, we understood that we have 10 days a year of free skilled nursing care. And then where are we now that they're owned by somebody else?
That's a good question, and it's a question I'm sure a lot of people have had. And right now, your residency agreements are your residence agreements, and they stay in effect. And so if it calls for 10 days of skilled nursing, and you have the need for skilled nursing, you can't just go and hang out there. You know, I'm going to go on vacation from Wayne, and I'm going to go hang out in skilled nursing. We would be obligated to arrange that with Aspen. And we would pay Aspen for those days. And we technically do that now. We technically pay the IL account pays the skilled account for your stay there. And so that wouldn't change. There is talk, and this will come later, that Welltower will be offering to buy out your agreement and reissue a new agreement without the life care days. So they're working out those deals, or the details of it. But I have no idea what that will entail. But they'll present it to you, and you'll have the option at that time.
What's happening with the resurfacing of the parking lot?
That's what Dr. Winery had asked to with the parking lots. Welltower took it off the table, and Welltower is the property owner, and everybody else. They took it off the table. I keep appealing them every other week on our calls with them to have it redone. So, you know, it maybe I'm working on it.
I'm coming to you, Pam. Getting your exercise.
Hi, well, I have a lot of questions about a lot of things, but most interesting to me, if we are no longer the manager, starting in April, about the second quarter, of the skip, and all those budget issues would go to them, right? And a lot of the increases, seems to me, that you note here, are involved in, nursing supplies, things that would have to do mainly with that part of the situation. And so if you took those increases away, would that help in the percentage of increase that we have to pay?
Well, yes and no, because what goes away is also the revenue. And you would, if you go back to the very first page, you'll see that the SNF revenue, we were 292,000 ahead of what we had planned there. So the added expenses in skilled nursing were covered by the revenue in skilled nursing. So we could have had a much higher revenue if we hadn't had those expenses, but it kind of washed itself out over there.
Could you repeat the questions after the residents asked? I have that request.
Can you repeat the questions after? Yes.
I have a question about the communication. Are we going to have communication with wellness or with you or with anybody? Because right now, we can call, but we have no idea if you get the call.
Is that related to the new phone system, or just in general?
In general, in general, right.
Yeah. With the new phone system, you'll have the ability to leave messages, and the expectation is that all staff, everybody here, returns their calls within 24 hours of receiving them. So, if that's not the case, please, relay that to me, so we can look into what the challenges are there.
Okay, and do we have any, if we call, do we have any assurance that message will go to the person? Because many times we make calls and have never had a response. Oh, and also, that also has to do with leaving our little card out to tell you we're alive at night. You said there was going to be communication about that also.
So we should still be using the cards, the door hangers. So the Nestor's been working on the aerial pendant system, the pull cord systems that are in your bathrooms, and the pendants. He's been working on those. When Alex was here, Alex was ready to switch it over to the check button that's on the receiver next to your bathroom, in your bathrooms. And unfortunately, they didn't convey all the information to us before he departed. And so Nestor's working on getting that going. We've been doing a couple tests on it to see that it works the way it's supposed to work. We found a glitch in the system that is being investigated further and repaired. Maintenance will be coming around in the next 2 weeks or so and replacing batteries in everybody's transponders and the pull cords to make sure we're starting off fresh with those. And then, so when we're ready to switch over, we'll communicate it.
Okay.
Carolyn?
Carolyn, I want to ask you a marketing question. You see that we have the ad in the paper, periodically for the Carlotta. Are we doing other things out in the community about marketing, or I wasn't sure what you were referring to?
Yeah, the question is what we're doing to increase marketing throughout the community and promoting the Carlotta. We're increasing our digital online presence, so more social media presence, more investment into Google searches. So if somebody comes to the internet, they want to look up senior living in Palm Desert, and so that our name moves further up the list. So we're one of the first choices that shows up when you Google that. There's a whole science behind it, which, boggles my mind. But somebody Molly's age gets it, she understands it. But that costs money. It's the same money you would be spending on print media. You're now spending it on electronic media in order to promote your enterprise. We are doing more community outreach, grassroots type outreach. So each one of the department heads once a month is like joining Rotary, joining the business associations, and out to visit physicians, doctors, fiduciaries, churches, those kinds of things. So, doing those kind of promotions.
The 8% rate increase being due here, I'm not quite sure what that means. Does that mean that our monthly fee is going to be increased 8%? And when does that happen?
The 8% will not. Yeah, if you were moved in between October, November, and December, you don't get that rate increase right away. So yours gets postponed because you just moved in. But for the others, it's effective March 1st, and it's an 8% increase of the room and board portion of and for second occupant, everything else, it's up 8%.
One more question about the expenditures. A lot of them on your capital expense for 2022. The make ready, the renovations, probably the HVAC. I think those are contracts that we have with suppliers.
There's two parts to it. We have a contract with the HVAC contractor. There is a contract, but the contract only includes labor. It doesn't include supplies.
With the unit renovations and the make readies, which is, it's with a contractor.
Yeah, we do most of it through Valley Glass.
Right.
We've gone through a succession of contractors up till we found Valley Glass. And Valley Glass very often is having to come in and repair and properly do some of the work that the previous contractors had done. What was the most recent thing we saw? Huh? Oh yeah, a dryer vent that was connected to the bathroom vent. And then the biggest one that we've had that it just infuriates me each time it happens is the showers were not properly waterproofed before they were tiled. And leaks through to the wall, then it ruins everything on the other side of it and back side of it. And those are all things that we don't see. They're all things that were hidden that the contractor took shortcuts on. And there's you can't go back. It's things that was done 5 years ago, 6 years ago.
So things can be done with, and then no inspector comes to, basically say it's okay to use this new shower.
No.
What was the question?
Oh, the question was who was inspecting it, and I think there's an assumption that the building department or the permits department does it. There's a blanket permit that covers it, and they don't come and inspect things unless it's electrical or plumbing.
I have a question.
Yeah, you're good.
I have a question on the skilled nursing availability. I was told when we moved in that there was a nurse available 24 hours a day in skilled nursing. It came to me that Lois had a very high temperature, and when I called to have the skilled nursing come, it was a very uncomfortable relationship. I had to call about 3 times because first she wasn't on duty, and then she was going to lunch, and then she was busy. But finally the nurse came. she had no thermometer with her. So she looked at Lois, and that's about the extent it was. And then later on, another assistant came down with a thermometer to take her temperature. What access do we have, if any, to the skilled nursing? With the nurse being on duty supposedly 24 hours a day.
Well, there are two parts to your question. There's two answers. The skilled nursing staff the skilled nursing center is licensed separately from the rest of the Carlotta. It's licensed by the Department of Public Health. The rest of the community is licensed by the Department of Social Services. By regulation, the nurses and the CNAs and everybody who works in skilled nursing has to remain in skilled nursing. They cannot leave skilled nursing. Their hours are dedicated to skilled nursing. They're calculated into the hours per patient day, and they're reported to the federal government and the state of California, which drives our reimbursement. So if a nurse leaves the floor and comes over to provide care here, and we're billing back, or we're using it as our cost reporting, we're actually falsifying documents. And I'm not going to jail. Just not going to do it. So that the skilled nursing staff are never supposed to leave there. And I know at some point in the history of Carlotta, it was loosey-goosey, and they did, they didn't, and that isn't how it can operate. Ellen's shaking her head, she agrees with me. And Ellen, if you don't know, used to be the director of nursing at the skilled center a few years ago.
10 years in the 90s.
In the 90s. She says 10 years ago. How's that?
She was
For 10 years. I was going to ask, how's that dementia come?
Yeah.
So in the 90s, 10 years as the DON there. I don't know that we don't market or advertise that we have a nurse 24 hours a day for independent or assisted living, because we don't. We haven't forever. There are staff that are trained in first aid and CPR around the clock. And those are the wellness caregivers. That's who should have been coming to check on you and to render care. So that's still here.
Well, the wellness caregiver did come to check to see if she had COVID, but beyond that nothing else was done.
Okay.
But, so, if one of us gets ill, like Lois had a high fever or had a fever, we have to go to the doctor then?
That's correct. Yeah, they will, even the nurse can't diagnose you. Even if it was a licensed nurse, like if Helen came or Lorraine came, they can't diagnose you. They can make a recommendation, to call your physician, see what the physician says. They can help you with that, but they can't diagnose you and say, take an aspirin and wait till morning.
That's what we found out. Thank you.
I wonder if you have any idea of when the exterior is going to be painted. I ask that because I personally think it's going to be a big plus for a lot of our moods to update the thing a little. But my other question related to that is, I'm sure this is a job of spray painting, and I've had other people express concerns about what happens to that spray drift to our cars. What do we do to avoid that?
What happens to a what?
Somebody in the front row says sue. The contractor.
Could you repeat the?
Yeah, the question is, do we know when the exterior painting will take place? And what happens, what type of provisions are being made to prevent overspray and damage to property and things like that? So the contractor that is the successful bidder, and we've already done the renderings. I'll get the renderings out so you can see them. It's really very sharp. The contractor did one of the local country clubs here. They did the whole community. We checked with them. We got great recommendations and references. They're an established person. This is their company. That's all they do is big paint projects. So they'll be taking all the necessary precautions along the way.
But when, you know when?
I don't know when. I only found out yesterday that it was approved. So we have a call. When is our call? Is it this week?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday is our call with Welltower. We'll be asking them when they plan to release those funds.
I asked that question about drift because I just with a little spray can of paint outside my garage, enough wind that I had to redo the whole car.
Oh,
It was covered with, I mean, I had to take all the paint off the car. It's amazing how that drifts.
yeah. No, they'll be taking, and you'll be moving your cars around because it includes painting of the carports as well. So, you know, everything, it's the railings, it's the everything other than the window frames. The doors at the casitas, everything is getting done. It's very, very nice.
The little sign by the east lobby.
The little sign by the
It's
east
all
lobby.
rusty and awful.
Yes, they're terrible. We, actually, Molly and Nestor and I walked the property looking at small things like that we need to redo. And so, you know, it's getting that done, so. George?
Yeah, the hand, that doesn't work.
Oh, meeting's over.
Good. Okay, mate.
Well, Ron will be.
Go ahead, I can hear you.
These reports are all great. However, for the third straight year, we're getting pneumonia as we arrive here. Instead of the 14 days before this meeting, when we're supposed to have these reports according to the California statutes. Why does that not happen?
Anything I say will sound like an excuse. So what I would offer is if you would like to reconvene in 14 days after you've had a chance to look at them in greater detail, I'm very happy to do that. George was asking why you didn't have the agenda 14 days prior